Hi, my name is Alman Angel. Thanks for watching the episode of APTV today. I got Arron Wood, who's running for Lord Mayor. Arron's going to talk to us about his strategy, his policy, his views, his vision, and his passion for his campaign and policies. I hope you can learn something from watching this. Thanks for tuning in. Why should any retail businesses vote for Arron Wood as Lord Mayor?
Oh, look, I think we've got a really good plan for retail businesses in the city, and that's getting the fundamentals right. So a safer city, a cleaner city, and it's really important you get those fundamentals right, because you can kind of have these deliberate plans and programs about how we get retail firing again. But if someone comes into the city and has a bad experience, like is happening a lot at the moment, then that can really knock that around. So we will have a really deliberate plan around city safety. We know that there's a 10% increase in crime across the city. We know that's 80 incidents across the city as well. So you've got to get those foundational pieces right. But we actually just announced last week, I'm losing track of time, a big package, our biggest package, $25 million in fact, aimed at supporting small business, including small retail. That's a mix of kind of reducing fees for existing businesses, but making it much more streamlined setup of business as well. It's also putting a small business hub in Town Hall, working with Small Business Association of Australia, working with the expertise of the Vic Chamber as well. And the whole hope there is, I've owned a small business for 22 years. When I started my small business, getting an ABN, getting all the stuff that you needed to set yourself up was very painful. So we want to make that as easy as possible. I think the other thing though is the first announcement we actually came out with was a rate freeze, and to some businesses that's going to mean not much. To lots of businesses that'll mean a lot. So it just means they're not going to add a whole lot more costs on year, as has been the case sort of over the last 4 years. The other parts of that small business package though that are really important to me are, I think we've just lost a bit of Melbourne's mojo where we had a really deliberate headquarter attraction strategy. I just was reading that Tom Ford's looking to set up 50 stores. Where is the kind of full court press from City of Melbourne working with the leaders in our city to go, well, Tom Ford, you're going to be setting up a store here in Melbourne. So the idea of working with your leaders across the city and enabling them to actually do what they do best, I think again is something that's kind of fallen away a bit, whereby, the Lord Mayor will do this, the Lord Mayor will do that. Well, guess what? The way Melbourne became great was, business leaders across different sectors, whether that's retail, hospitality, doesn't matter, coming together, supported and facilitated by the city, but really taking that guidance and advice from people who know the industries best.
Why are you doing this to yourself and your family though?
It's a good question.
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting.
Watching you is exhausting.
Yeah, I was deputy mayor and acting mayor previously. I ran against Sally Cap and lost in the last election. I thought that closed the book for me for civic representation. I was enjoying getting back to my career, enjoying spending more time with the family. And I think if the city was on track, I would have said, that's it for me. But you only have to walk through the city and kind of see the for lease signs. You only have to talk to business owners and hear the pain in their voice. And that's, no sector is immune, right? Like I was in Chinatown the other week talking to restaurateurs, and these are generational businesses. And they were saying that if they weren't generational businesses, that they would have shut the door 6 months ago. So I think it was tough during COVID, but the COVID hangover has well and truly hit now. And I think it's even tougher now than it was in COVID, because there was all sorts of business support going on. Whereas now what we've got is this, we've got this perfect storm of inflation, ever increasing taxes across the board. We've got difficult, retail conditions. We've got a highly competitive market. And I think we've lost that strategic leadership from Town Hall, which is actually really important when you've got times of difficulty.
So you previously ran for Lord Mayor and were unsuccessful. What are you doing this time around that is differently to be successful?
Look, I think we're still running a campaign which, it's a fresh start with proven leadership, right? So I think we can't have more of the same because we're heading in the wrong direction. We've got a town hall that puts fees and charges up, passes on the full rate cap, has had lots of opportunities, I think, to support small business in particular, and they have sort of been left wanting on that scale. So getting the basics right is really important. Again, clean city, safe city, all of those sorts of things, and I've got actually a proven track record of doing that. But I think the other thing that I want to speak to as well is politicians can make all sorts of promises in an election especially. And when we came out and said we'll freeze rates, people said, well, how can we trust you? Well, my track record is when I was Deputy Mayor, COVID hit and I was Chair of Finance and Governance, and I said we're doing a 0% rate rise. We're not increasing rates when people are struggling like this. All bar one other councillor said, no, we need that money. And I said, well, I'll vote against the budget then. And so people ask, what's your power on council? And if you can put your case, if you can show that the voters of Melbourne are behind you, the ratepayers of Melbourne are behind you, what ended up happening was unanimous support for a 0% rate rise. Now, of course, everyone else claimed that and said, look at the great work we've done. But the truth to that story is I made that decision quickly based on what I was seeing out there, based on speaking to people who were going through that difficulty. And then I was able to work that system in a way that got us the result that we needed. I think the difference this time is I've got the experience of knowing that City of Melbourne isn't just being on council, it's a huge administration. If you don't understand how to actually make that work for the direction that you set and they're voted in for, it can be a very tough time. So I understand the business of council. I also understand, having been in small business myself, having been a resident myself, having seen what's going on in the city, I know the challenges that we're facing. And then I've got a really good network of people, I think, that want to get behind that vision as well. So I think that the difference from last time is, sadly, a lot of people are doing a lot worse than they were. They're wanting change. And there's even a lot of anger out there as well. So I'm speaking to people who, some of them might have 6 or 7 hospitality venues. And they're not just saying, hey, things are a bit tough. One of the guys has said, I'm selling one by one and I'm out of here, I'm done. Victoria is done for me. So I've been saying to people that small business isn't just someone's livelihood, it's literally the lifeblood of Melbourne. If you lose the small retail, the cafes, the restaurants, these fine grain businesses, you don't just lose someone's business, you lose what makes this city,
sure,
one of the greatest cities in the world. So 2 of it, we released a 5-point plan, right? Like, of course, you've got to have a 5-point plan, and I'm actually really focused on delivering on that. So all the policies we announce are aimed at that 5-point plan. One of the big ones is to revitalise Melbourne's economy, and that's some of the bigger picture stuff, right? And that's also managing Town Hall's budget so that you can invest in the facilities and services that the community needs. But we actually had a 5th pillar, which is reviving Melbourne's cultural heartbeat. And that's specifically aimed at hospitality, small retail, because again, the importance of those sectors to the vibrancy of our city kind of goes far beyond just a business or economic lever. It's really the culture of Melbourne, the heartbeat of Melbourne, the vibrancy of Melbourne, and it just makes our city what it is.
Homelessness and crime are, persistent issues that can be going on for years and years and years. And many Lord Mayors and many councillors and many premiers have tried to address it.
Yep.
What could you do any different?
Yeah, we're going to have a really comprehensive housing and homelessness policy to come out because we're doing a lot of deep thinking about it. We're speaking to a lot of the experts in this area, whether that's Major Brendan Noddle or the UDIA or Rob Pradlin, who's housing all Australians. Just some really great expertise. What I will say is this though: homelessness is not an inevitable byproduct of a city. There are cities around the world that have actually really managed to do some great things on this. Adelaide, in fact, has Adelaide Zero, and the governance model that they implemented is something that I want to see in Melbourne. Now, governance might sound like a structural thing, but it really is every agency involved in this homelessness and housing continuum working together hand in glove with the agencies like Victoria Police and City of Melbourne, chaired by the relevant minister from the Victorian government. That actually matters because a by name or a case by case approach is really important so people don't fall through the cracks. It's really important so you can streamline your services, and it's really important so you can get pathways out of homelessness that actually stick, right? Brendan Noddle says this great thing, housing first, yes, absolutely, we need housing, but it has to be relationship first, because if you stick someone with really complex issues, childhood trauma, drug and alcohol addiction, mental health issues, and you go, put you in a house, and then wonder why they're back on the streets, in a month's time, then you're not kind of understanding the full gamut of issues. What I will say too is it's a wicked problem, but if you think about this, and it wasn't perfect by any means, but during COVID, we got every rough sleeper just about off the streets. So this is doable. There's a lot of focus obviously at a federal and state government level, and we need more social housing, of course. But I think City of Melbourne can do much more, particularly when we're talking about around about 200 people that are sleeping rough on Melbourne streets, that there can be more deliberate and definitive action to actually get them off the streets.
Do you ever meet or talk to rough sleepers?
I
homelessness?
went further than that. SBS Filthy Rich and Homeless is an amazing series by Blackfella Films. And they've had 3 series, and they approached me for the 3rd series while I was Deputy Mayor. And it's actually a reality TV show, but they do it in a way which I can never say that I truly know what homelessness is, because I had a home to go back to. But geez, they go damn close. They throw you on the streets for 10 nights.
10 consecutive nights?
10 consecutive nights. And I was dropped at the Rocks in Sydney, because it was filmed in Sydney. And the rain was horizontal for 3 days. And they take all of your belongings. So I slept on the streets of Sydney. I slept under Sydney Harbour Bridge. Lines in a food van. Went into crisis accommodation at Salvo's in Sydney. Spent 2 nights sleeping with a guy in his car just outside Wollongong. And then my last 4 nights were at a housing provider that was for men recovering from ice addiction. So that is the fire in my belly when I get elected, that homelessness won't just be a surface level issue.
The City of Melbourne has on average 21 protests on the weekends, every single week. There's a lot of vandalism, crime, bad behavior. Because of it, some people are avoiding the CBD, myself included, on the weekends because of it. Business owners on their busiest trading days, Saturday and Sunday, are shutting their doors and now asking for rental abatements again from their landlords because they simply can't trade. This has been going on for a long enough time. And at what point we need to continue to tolerate this? Sorry, at what point can we stop tolerating this behavior?
Yeah, look, I think, again, speaking to a lot of business owners, some of their best days had been Saturdays and Sundays and are now completely extinguished at a time when they're really struggling already. I'm not arguing with the fact that it is your democratic right to protest, right? But what I'm saying is, I think Melbourne, we can't be known as Australia's protest capital. That's just not a moniker that we want as a city. We want to be Australia's fashion capital, Australia's culinary capital, Australia's sport, all of those things.
Coffee.
But at the moment, we are Australia's protest capital. And I think what I'm seeing is there are rights on the side of protest, but there's also rights on people's ability to go about their lives and enjoy the city as well. So as soon as that behaviour becomes threatening, intimidating, illegal, racist, defacing of public property, all of these things, that's not acceptable. I think I've seen other things, whether that's permitting systems, whether that's...
New South Wales has a protest permit.
Yeah. And so I'm not, again, saying this is an easy problem to solve, but I think it's one where people can rightly expect that the Lord Mayor is going to be sitting down with the state government and saying, hey, this can't be what we're known for, surely. What are the things that we can put in place that mean that people aren't fearful of coming into the city on a weekend because, every weekend's a protest? And I think there is a numbers game, right? Like, if there's a protest once or twice a month, probably not a huge issue. But this is, I think it's like the 46th week in a row. It could be the 47th week in a row I was walking through the city today, another protest. This is a weekday. I think people have a right to be pretty upset and angry about their right to enjoy the city as well.
Do you know what the actual amount of debt the City of Melbourne has? And if you're elected to Lord Mayor, how would you go about paying it back?
So I know that the servicing of the debt is now $7.5 million. So what we're talking about is, and I'm trying to get the exact figure of debt that City of Melbourne's carrying. And look, it's not huge in relation to like a state government or a federal government. But when the servicing of your debt is $7.5 million
A month?
a year, right, annually, but that's a park. That's $7.5 million that could go to homelessness services. So what we have already announced is we won't be proceeding with the Green Line project. We think that project was founded on $100 million from the state government, $100 million from the federal government that is not coming, categorically not going to come. We think the project itself was much north of the $316 million price tag. So what we announced is we will commit, I'm not in the business of tearing up contracts, we'll do the Birrong Ma section, which is contracted.
Queen Victoria Market project?
Again, Queen Victoria Market should be the jewel in the crown for our city. I've been speaking to lots of traders who are deeply frustrated, who are losing lots of money, and the City of Melbourne is heavily subsidising what should be a profitable market, which was a profitable market when I was on council. And we've got building works there which are over time and over budget. And we've had one of the projects go from supposed to be finished very soon to this is going to be another 3 years occupying some valuable shed space. And I think there is a real need, and I'm not saying this to be grabbing a headline, but there's a need to look at the QVM management structure and the costs in that structure. There's a need to think about the board and how that's actually representative of traders. And so I think there are some deliberate things that need to be done to get the trader voice being heard, get the infrastructure projects under control and the spend under control, and to realise the amazing opportunity we've got with this market to, and again, people say, oh, it's tough trading conditions, and yeah, okay, fine. And there's more competition from supermarkets. But South Melbourne market is absolutely booming. So, if they can do it, Queen Victoria Market can do it with some strong leadership. And we've got to stop this finger pointing of, oh, it's QVM or it's City of Melbourne or it's state government. It's City of Melbourne. City of Melbourne needs to take a strong leadership role when it comes to Queen Victoria Market. And we worked with Martin Pakula and we removed the liquor licensing fees for 2 years, from hospitality venues, which was shut, right? It was just the right thing to do. But it took us working and getting that voice heard and getting the job done. So I'd like to think that my reputation is I'm not out there, shouting from the rooftops and trying to play gotcha stuff. I will stand up firm in the interests of ratepayers, businesses and residents of the City of Melbourne because I'm an independent. I'm not a member of a political party. And I've never been a member of a political party, and so that gives me some freedom. But equally, the state government is a critical partner in delivering on the aspirations of the city. And so you can have disagreements over things that you're not aligned on, but you need to be working behind closed doors on those things you are aligned on to get the job done. And I think equally, I'm not someone who needs to be recognised for the work that I've done. I feel pretty comfortable in myself. I've done some good things over the years. And so that means that you're working with the state government and, it means the minister stands out there and gets the accolades, but you get the job done. Great, I'm up for that too. Probably about the election itself. Not too many people care about local government, and I get it, right? Like politics is not super interesting. But I do feel the reason I'm running is I think we're at a critical turning point for the city. If we keep going the way we're going, I think Melbourne's going to really struggle. Adelaide's firing, Brisbane's firing, and they're licking their lips, right? Because Melbourne was always number one, and they're like, great, what other events can we grab from Melbourne? What other headquarters can we grab from Melbourne? What other stores can we poach from Melbourne to hit the fashion capital? They're out to get us, We've got to sharpen our game up. We've got to get back to being aggressive about the events, the headquarters, the businesses that we're going after. And we've got to do that in a way that's collaborative, where we're all working together and rowing in the same direction. So I think this election is really, really important because there are lots of challenges and lots of problems, but don't underestimate the role of a strong mayoral leader. They might not have all of the levers under their direct control, but having a strong mayor at Town Hall can reset that relationship with the state government in a positive way. So I think this election's, in my view, a really, really important election. So do your homework, get engaged, understand. Don't be, bamboozled by all the promises that are made. Look to the track record over the last period and make your vote count.
It's a big job what you're undertaking for yourself, your career, your family as well.
Yep.
It's not many people who put their hands up like this and sacrifice so much for improve the city of Melbourne, which is such a critical part. So thank you for trying.
Thanks, Alvin, and thanks for all the work that you do, because at the end of the day, I know you've been here day in, day out, and you're not walking away. And I don't blame some people who have gone, you know what, this is too much, because it's actually really tough out there and there's a lot of sad stories. But for the people who've kept sticking it out, I hope I get the chance to row in that same direction with you.
It's the city of Melbourne. It's a CBD. It's always going to be great.
Yeah.
You can read what you want to read. It's still the greatest city.
Yeah, I agree. I love Melbourne.